Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to be making Makgeolli, which is a Korean fermented rice drink. I'm going to leave it at that. It could be considered a beer, it could be considered a wine, depending on your perspective on that. And it's kind of an acquired taste, or a particular taste. If you like fermented things such as kombucha, ginger bugs, even kimchi, that sort of lightly fermented flavor is in this drink. If you're not into that, then you probably won't like it. And it's also unfiltered, so if you like cloudy nigori sake, then you might like the texture of this as well. So the recipe I'm following comes from makgeollilab.com, and I'll share that link below so you guys can all follow along if you want to make this at home. Now there's only 2 ingredients in this, which is great. The first of which you will need is sweet rice, or sweet glutinous rice, aka chapsal. If you look at the bag, it says chapsal right here. So if you're looking in the store for this, if it's not written in English as sweet rice, then take a look for these characters. The next ingredient you'll need is Nuruk, which is labeled as enzyme powder. It's kind of the fermentation agent here. I'm not sure if it's a fungus like koji is in sake production, or if it's just some kind of non-living chemical entity. But anyway, kilo of rice and 200 grams of Nuruk. And both can be found on either Amazon or probably in your local Korean grocer if you have one. And as for hardware, you'll need cheesecloth bags. This is a fine mesh one. I've noticed a lot of cheesecloth that's sold in grocery stores is very thin and porous. This is a little bit thicker. It's more like a muslin. It'll do a better job at filtering the Nuruk when we go to do that. And you should have a kitchen scale. In general, it's good to have just to measure out ingredients when you need to. For this, we will need to accurately measure our ingredients. So that'll come in handy. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure out the Nuruk. So I've got my scale, I've got my bowl. I'm gonna zero out the scale so that it reads 0, 0 grams. And we want 200 grams of this Nuruk. So, $200 grams. Whew. And to that, we have to add 600 milliliters of water. I'm using filtered water just in case. I'm not sure if chlorinated or fluorinated or tap water will have any effect negatively or positively on making this stuff. So 600 milliliters in. Then we want to go ahead and let that soak for 4 to 7 hours. So I'll see you after that. All right, while that's going, we can weigh out our rice. I'm gonna weigh it in this pot so that I can take care of the next step, which is rinsing the rice right in here. 1 kilo on the nose. So let's bring this over to the sink and rinse it out. So I'm using cold water, and I'm just gonna swish my hand around in this sort of motion just to loosen up all the starch that's in the rice. And it should take us quite a few rounds of this. Just keep going until it's mostly clear. All right, I think that we are good. As you can see, the water is running pretty clear. So what we're gonna do next is take a clean cloth or dish towel, or in my case, I'm gonna use a cheesecloth bag, and I'm gonna dump the stuff in and try and get it all in here without spilling it. And basically we want this all to drain. I'm gonna throw the basket in the pot just so it has a place to drain to, and I'm gonna leave this for an hour to drain. All right, our rice has been draining for an hour, and you can see that it is mostly dry. So I've got it in the cheesecloth still, in the steamer basket in a pot on an induction burner. I'm gonna go ahead and put a few liters of water in the bottom of the pot. I'll throw the steamer basket back in. Gonna cover it up, bring it to a boil, and once we start seeing steam come out of the top, we'll set our timer for 40 minutes and come back to it when it's all steamed up. So our rice is steamed at this point, and we're gonna let it sit for 10 minutes before we do anything else. We just want it to settle down, have a moment to chill out, crack open a beer, do what it's gotta do, you know. All right, so 10 minutes has passed and it's time to take the rice out of the pot. We wanna cool this down as rapidly as possible, so I've got, you know, items with good airflow. Whew, it's hot. Get some tongs. Okay. It's not fully cooked. Hopefully that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and proceed. I mean, it has been cooked. It's sticking together. The starches have been activated, hydrated. I don't know what the proper word is. I actually want to spread it out more than this. I'm gonna go ahead and get another tray. I just want a nice thin layer of rice. So I've got a flat baking tray and I'm just gonna shovel some of this over, spread it out. Ooh, that hurts. Oh my God, that's hot. Feels almost like that, what was that, Floam? Remember Nickelodeon Floam? It's like beads of foam suspended in Play-Doh. Just put half of it on here, half of it on here. And I'm gonna go ahead and get my fan blowing across it to cool it on down. We want it kind of warm. It has to be at most 77 Fahrenheit or 25 centigrade. So yeah, a little bit over room temperature. All right, so it's been about 5 hours now, and I've got my Nuruk that has been soaking. And the color has changed, as you can see, to a dark oatmeal kind of color. Looks like oatmeal. Probably is not oatmeal though. Not sure. And I'm gonna go ahead and filter out the solids with my cheesecloth bag so that I'm left with just the liquid. That's all we want, is just the liquid that is going to be our fermentation starter, I guess. All right, now just to be sure that we're totally filtered, I'm going to go in the opposite direction now. Pull my bag over here, pour all that water through. Okay, and now we want to squeeze this bag as much as possible, get as much of that liquid out. Because you can see, as I squeeze, there's a ton coming out of here. All right, so we're gonna prep the fermentation container. I have this jar, which is 8 cups, which is equal to 2 liters, essentially. Plenty big for what we're doing. So we wanna sanitize this. So I'm gonna remove the lid. And I've got this packet that came with the beer making kit that I got. If you don't have one of these, then you should buy one. I've tried different methods of sanitization, and they just, you know, I've had bad results, mixed results, I should say. So just, you know, save yourself the hassle and the insecurity and just use a sanitization packet. So I'm gonna pour half of this in here. It says use half for a gallon of water. I'm just gonna do overkill just to be sure. If you've ever seen the video of my beer making experiment, then you'll know why I am a little sensitive about this. All right, I'm gonna fill this up with water. That should be good. I'll throw the lid on and give it a little slosh around. Let's make sure that all surfaces are sanitized. So that is good. And then we're going to rinse this out. And we're just gonna let this dry on some paper towels off to the side. All right, so our rice has cooled down and we need to get it into our fermentation vessel. So I'm gonna make a makeshift funnel out of tin foil, aluminum foil. I don't know when or if aluminum foil was ever made out of tin. Form it around this way. That should do. And I'm just gonna use my hands. It's probably the easiest way. More dexterity than using a spoon. And I'm going to pour in the stuff that we filtered out of the Nuruk. Very thick on the bottom. I'm going to add a dribble of water just to loosen it up. All right, so now that we got that in there, let's cover it up. And we want to make sure that all this liquid is incorporated throughout. So I'm just going to mix it up like that. You know, now that we mixed in the Nuruk, there's more space, so I'm going to go ahead and add more of the rice. So it's possible that we'll be able to fit it all in. The Nuruk is about to here, which is what we expected because that's about the 600 ml mark. I'm just going to fill it as much as it wants to go. I think we're good. I think that's all we can do. Okay, so it's diluted. I've got probably about 1 liter of water in there. And I'm going to go ahead and cap this loosely and, you know, go ahead and burp it every day or so, just to let some of that extra gas out so it doesn't build up and blow this thing up. I'm gonna let it go for 7 to 10 days. Keep an eye on bubbles. They should start forming after the first day or so. I'm gonna keep it in a warm temperature so it activates quicker, and we should be good to drink it in a little over a week. So I'll see you then. Welcome back. It's been about 10 days and there's been plenty of activity in this jar. You can see the liquid sloshing around is no longer clear, and there are some bubbles that come up when I open the lid. Ooh, I can smell the fermentation when I do that, which is pretty cool. And I'm gonna do a side-by-side. I have some actual factory-made makgeolli that I got from my local Korean restaurant. And we'll see how they do in a side-by-side taste test. All right, so let's try the control first. You'll notice when I open the bottle, it's got a lot more fizz. I think that's just because of the container. It may also be the amount of fermentation. These ones have about 6% by volume. And in 10 days, I'm not sure that we could have gotten that much out of this, but who knows? So, control. A little bit of fermentation, nice bubbly effervescence, little sweetness and creaminess. Yeah, it's this balance of the sweetness from the rice and the fermentation. Create this refreshing, milky sort of drink. Quick palate cleanse with some water. Now you can see the color of this one is much darker, much yellower. Maybe the type of rice that I used. It may have been exposure to sunlight. Maybe in the factory they keep them in closed vessels, whereas this one was in clear one. The smell is nuttier. And again, that might have been the type of rice that I used. Wow. Ooh, that is tart. Flavor has a lot of sweetness, but it's also got a lot of tartness, like sourness. And not like it's gone bad kind of sourness. It's like I added citric acid to this thing or something. But yeah, it's got an underlying nuttiness that comes from that type of rice that I used. Something that may have affected this a lot is the fact that my rice wasn't totally cooked when I took it out of the steamer. I've heard that maybe soaking it beforehand will soften it up a little bit better. Yeah, so I'm wondering where that's coming from. Honestly, I feel like they're two totally different beverages within the same family. It's almost like two varietals of wine. This one is a lot more refreshing, a lot more mellow, and it's got a lot more bubbles. And this one is, I'd say, more formidable. I'm not sure if the alcohol content is different on this one versus this one. Because of that acidity, you hold yourself back a little bit, and kind of makes me savor it a little bit more. So what do you think? Is this something that you would try out at home? The ingredients are readily available online, and it doesn't take too much effort. Give it a shot. Let me know if you do this and how yours turns out, if it turns out to be sour like this. But that's all for now. So stay tuned for my next experiment, and I've got international recipes coming out every Friday. So see you next time. Cheers.